and welcome back. Today we are going to learn Pomp and Circumstance. We're going to start with the right hand. The next video will be the left hand and then hands together. You might recognize this particular piece by Edward Elgar. If you've ever been to a high school graduation or a college graduation, this piece oftentimes is played as part of those ceremonies. Let's go ahead and take a look at this piece. We are in 2/4. We have a first ending and we have a second ending. We may not have talked about this yet. If you're familiar with it, consider this a refresher. If you're not, let's go over it. On the second line, at the end of the second line, you're going to see a 1 with a bracket, kind of a big bracket on top of the stave. That is first ending. So what that means is we're going to take that first ending all the way to the repeat sign. So we're going to play the first 2 lines as written. When we get to the end of that second line, we would see the repeat sign. Then we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of the piece. We're going to start at the beginning again, play the first line, then go to the second line, play the first 3 measures of the second line, and we've already done the first ending. That was the first time. Now we need to go to the second ending. So we get to the first 3 measures of that second line, and then before we play anything else, we jump down to the third line where we see number 2. That's our second ending. So what that means is then we'll jump down there, we'll play the last 2 lines. That's the end of the piece. Let's go ahead and take a look at the right hand, first line only. 1 and 3 on B and G. 3, 2, 1, F, G, A. Next 2 notes are B and E. It's an interval of a fourth, so we can either use our second finger or our third finger. I have not written in a fingering for this particular interval, so I'm giving you as the player the liberty to choose. Some people prefer 2, some people prefer 3. Whatever you decide to use, make sure and write that in so that every time you see it, you're playing the same thing every time. Next measure, bottom note stays the same on B, top note comes down 1 to D. C by itself. 3, 2, 1, B, C, D. Then 2 on A. And here we have a tie, which means we don't play that last measure of the first line. We just let that sound carry through. Now we're on the second line. B. Next measure, 3, 2. Now what I have here is a bracket from 3, 2 all the way to the next chord. So what that means is we're going to place 3 on D, 2 on E, thumb on A, and when we get to that chord, we're going to put our third finger back on D. So 3, 2, put your third finger back on D. Next measure, which is our first ending, D. Next measure, again, it's an interval of a fourth. You can use 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down, G, F, E, D. And again, we have a tie, so we're not going to play that last measure. Now we would repeat that all the way back to the beginning. Repeat those first line and the first 3 measures of the second line. Then let's go ahead and jump down to third line, second ending. D by itself. Next measure, G and C. Next measure, 1, 2, 3. And you'll see I have a bracket from the 3 to the 1 and 2. So what that means is the 3 will connect to the 1. And when the 3 plays, the 2 will place. So it looks like this. 1, 2, connect the thumb to the B, play that third finger, then put the second finger on G. I'm going to play that a few times so you can see what that looks like. And then we have a tie, so we don't play the second, G and B. Then we go down to the next measure, C and E. 3, 2, 1 connects to the 3 on D. Let's do that 3, 2, 1, connecting to the 3 on D a few times here together. 3, 2, 1, 3. 3, 2, 1, 3. One more time. Now we're at the last line. This is an interval of a sixth. So you have the liberty of doing a 3 and 1 here, B and G, or you can do 4 and 1, whatever's comfortable for you. B and G. Next measure, interval of a fifth, C and G. And then second to last measure, 1, 2, C, B. And then 2, 1. I don't have it written in here, so what I might want you to do, what I would suggest, is adding a bracket from that A, where the second finger plays, to the thumb where the G plays in the next measure. So the 2 and then thumb. So the thumb is crossing over on that G. 2 plays on A, third connects on B, thumb is already there. And why am I having you do that instead of come off the harp and pluck? It's because it's a quick note, 8th note to the next chord. And I think it will do us a favor to have our thumb already set up, so all we have to work on is getting that third finger set up. So let's play that together. Have your second finger on A. This is the third to last measure. Second finger on A, thumb on G. So the thumb's going to be on top, and the second finger is going to be below that. It's going to be a weird placement. Haven't done this much. Play that 2, place your third on B, play the chord. I would do that a few times to get comfortable with that, so by the time you get to that measure, when all is said and done, it feels natural. When we look at this piece, we're talking about dynamics as well, since we've just come off of learning a little bit about dynamics. At the beginning, you're going to see in the very first measure P-MF, piano-mezzo forte. So what that means is the first time you play it, the first 2 lines, first ending, before the repeat, you're going to play piano softly. Then when you go back to the repeat, beginning, and you play it the second time, it's going to be mezzo forte, so a little bit louder. So when you play mezzo forte, at the beginning of the second line, we see a crescendo. We're getting louder. Then we go down to the second ending, and by the second measure of the second ending on the third line, we're forte. So we should be, at this point, built up to a nice big sound. Then you'll actually see we don't get softer. At the end, very last line, after the allargando, we see double F, fortissimo. So fortissimo, now we are really loud here. Nice, boisterous, big, nice big sound. The allargando is also an indication of slowing down a little bit, broadening a little bit, while increasing that sound. So that is the right hand for Pomp and Circumstance. Please join me for the next lesson for left hand and the entire piece. Thanks.